strong.
Almost tackled you.
We should arm wrestle later. Okay. But first.
You're just wanting to cry tonight. Hi, I'm Britt.
And my name is Alissa.
And this is SkeleTales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
We do. We also share true tales of the strange, unusual, and paranormal.
Heck yeah, we do. Britt, what are
What?
we talking about this week?
Oh my gosh, I don't even care. I'm just so excited that I get to be sitting on this couch with you in person.
Heck yeah.
Alissa went around the house and gathered like every pillow. So we are like
And then I left
surrounded
half of
by
them somewhere.
cozy.
What's
There's
the
like,
matter?
they're on the floor.
I was like,
we got throw blankets.
we're like, let's sit at the desk. Let's sit at the table. Like, let's like comfy up. Like, let's take a nap.
I know we
This is-
never get to just like relax and record
No,
and just
it's
share
like
some spooky
The
shit.
SkeleTales slumber party.
Skeletal slumber party.
I want pajamas.
Oh, okay. Before we dive in, I want to talk about real quick a text message that I received. Last week, we aired the episode, the hotline episode, and number one, bringing it to the hotline, my friend Mel. She originally told a story about her house and how her husband, her baby would wake up in the middle of the night. She'd hear her husband either shushing the baby or getting the bottle for the baby or rubbing up against her leg or whatever. And every single time her husband was nowhere near here, in a completely different room, not these touches and voices. Well, last episode, if y'all haven't listened, Mel was talking about feeling heaviness upstairs in the rooms up there and how she would say, go away, leave me alone. Very proud of her for that. Well, she felt a finger touching her while she was laying in bed. She rips her eye mask off. Nothing's there, obviously. And she's like, no, go away, leave me alone. She didn't know that we had already recorded that episode when she sends me this text message. It says, I just got out of the shower. The door is open and I'm drying off when I hear Jason, her husband, walk down the hall. I finish putting on my PJs and I hear him sit in his office chair. I came out a minute later and he's not there. He was still upstairs reading to their child. Well, now I'll be sleeping with the lights on. So then I was like, oh my gosh, we just told your haunted story on the podcast. That's crazy. And then I was like, well, we should bring the Ouija board to your house. She says, fuck no. Was not into it. Well, so then she sends me a message a couple of days later. Okay. In the same hallway the next day, something happened that I can't explain. I walked through the hallway into our sunroom, also Jason's office area, to check and make sure I didn't leave the water on in the backyard. I just peeked out the window and walked back through the hallway just a few seconds later. Oh, I forgot there was a period there. I just peeked out the window and walked back through the hallway. A few seconds later, her son, her little toddler, is running towards the sunroom and sits down on the floor in the hallway in a big puddle of water. He wasn't carrying anything, so he didn't have the means to make a puddle. The water was cold, so I know he wasn't peeing on the floor, which is initially my first thought. I spent several minutes looking around to see where the water came from, but I couldn't explain it. I would have stepped right through it twice if it were there earlier, and it just appeared. A few seconds after I left. Is this paranormal or just a fucking weird occurrence that I missed the first 2 times that I'd walked through the hallway? I have no idea. So something is absolutely happening in Mel's house.
Is it protoplasma? Protoplasma?
Did it look like a ghostly white energy?
She lives nearby, right?
She lives in Seattle. Yeah, like 30
should
minutes.
Should we go there right now? Let's go.
At 10:30. She might be waking up in a couple hours for work. She works very early mornings.
Perfect.
I mean, she'll be home.
Yeah. Do we have a Ouija board?
Ah, damn it. Left it at home. All right. Next time. Pajamas, Ouija board.
She lucked out.
She lucked
Mel.
out. Oh my gosh, Mel, though.
Really lucked out.
Seriously, very scary. I have yet to visit. Oh my gosh, words. I have yet to go visit Mel's house, though. And now I'm a little curious,
very
but
intrigued.
Scared. Yeah. Okay. Before you tell your story, stop. Wait, let me tell my story.
Something I need to tell you.
Something I need to tell you. Oh my gosh, look at me being so unprepared. Oh, that's
I like some bacon.
You want bacon?
A little bit. I
And
had
cheese
like
bread?
a whiff of bacon for some reason. Do you smell like bacon? Did you
I
eat
do
bacon
smell
today?
like bacon.
I just
we
had
were
a
by the
hankering.
we were by the campfire. We had a lovely little campfire
You
pit.
smell kind of bacony.
Just for you, I put that on. Okay, this story comes from Linda. In 2012, me and my husband separated, and I asked him to leave the house for a couple of days while I got my stuff and moved
Get
out.
the fuck out, Linda's husband.
That's right. She's got shit she's got to get ready.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be arguing with him. The second night, I was alone in my bed. I was awakened by footsteps walking towards my room. It was dark in my room, and suddenly something got in my bed with me and was lying in the bed with me. It wrapped its arms around me from behind me in a spooning position and held me real tight.
Ew.
I love seeing your face in person when I tell my story.
I hate this. I'm like really picturing something super gross.
I froze and couldn't move or speak a word. I was wide awake. I thought my husband had come back home, but it wasn't him. I sensed pure evil, and I couldn't see him, but it was like I knew that he was like a dark shadow man, and I was terrified. All of a sudden, he spoke in my ear. "Are you happy with yourself now?" His voice was deep and ugly. I even felt his breath on my ear. He didn't say anything else, just held on to me tight. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get myself loose from him because I wasn't able to move. So I started praying for Jesus to help me, and it released me, and it was gone. And I will never forget that, ever. I got out of bed and turned on all the lights and waited for daybreak to come. I've never experienced that again. So you would think sleep paralysis.
Yeah, that's my guess.
But she says she's wide awake. She feels the breath.
That's how
and
you
the
feel.
voice.
You feel like you're wide awake, but you're not wide awake.
Like her eyes are open.
Yeah. That's how sleep paralysis is. Your eyes are open.
Wait, it feels like you have a demon man holding you, breathing in your ear?
Yeah.
Happy with yourself now.
I mean, that part, maybe not. But yes, you feel like you're awake and you can't move and people are holding you. That's all. You've not like seen the little troll on your like chest depiction. Yeah. That's how it feels.
On your chest makes sense.
Yeah,
you're
but
like,
he's
I can't
they're
breathe.
holding you down like you can't move.
That's freaky as hell.
It's freaky.
The breath in the ear, though, sleep paralysis does that?
Yeah, man.
For real?
Yeah, it sounds like chaos. Or
What?
that one's like very specific. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with sleep paralysis for that.
That is
one.
a really freaky as shit sleep
It's
paralysis
very
story.
freaky,
Then.
man. No, that it's scary. People get really scared.
Dang.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Well, I'm glad it never happened to her again. Thank you, Linda, for sharing your tale.
Okay, do I get to go now?
Yes, please.
All right. I have another dang Texas story from Steve.
I was hoping you were going to say Steve. Hell, yes.
It's titled Another Dang Texas Story, and he is like the best. Okay. I feel some explanation is needed for this submission. I have been a police officer for longer than I would have liked, but fortune is on the horizon as I'm nearing retirement. So, like a lot of cops do, I have decided to write a book that documents my experiences.
Yes, Steve Steven!
Most of these types of writing are usually biographical in style and tend to read like a lengthy journal full of police jargon and self-praise. I have decided to write this one in more of a novel form, which somewhat explains why it's so wordy. I tend to never finish anything I start and likely will not finish this endeavor either.
Join the club.
So I thought I might submit an expert of what I have so far. This is an actual experience that I had and my perception during. It likely will not be for everyone. So if it's met with a return to sender, I completely understand. Oh, come on, Stephen.
I'm so proud of you, Stephen, for writing a book. And you're so... Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Of demons and jinns. Driving down the rutted road, the patrol car's headlights struggled to penetrate the dense stalks of overgrown wheat and various grasses. Some long-forgotten farmland entombed by urban expansion. A rare habitat in this metropolis, a bastard of nature yet unclaimed by the city as some housing complex or manicured park. The wood-lined field was darkened by the absence of city lights. The dried yellow grasses conquered the headlights' beams, fading from white to amber. This was my second time driving into this field tonight. The residents in the surrounding neighborhoods had been reporting the sounds of a man in the throes of death, long moaning pleas for help, faint requests for death, and long fits of crying. I got out of the car and turned my head to catch the wind and any sound it may carry. Nothing but the crinkling of foliage was heard. No sounds of trauma. I waded through this dense place towards the surrounding tree line. A forest more reminiscent of the deep south, with its tight-packed limbs wrapped in a chaotic entanglement of vines. I stopped periodically to listen and scan the surroundings with my light. My light picked up the flash of some reflected surface packed deep into the woods. I continued passing my light over the reflective spot while moving towards it. The passing of the light created brief, fitting flashes like the signaling of a wayward survivor lost at sea. As I closed in, I recognized the source of the reflection as the material of a camping tent sat erect and hidden among the trees. I stood at a distance, watching the tent for any signs of movement. From this tent came the soft, exhausted moans of a man crying out in a slow cadence, "Oh, God, please." I had found the source of the night's long pleading. I approached the tent with more caution, slowed heel to toe, rounding steps on the edges of my feet. A manic cackling came from the confines of the tent, a cackling that was occasionally interrupted and muted by the sounds of slurping, sounds of eating. I bent slightly, gripped the tag of the zipper, and began pulling the zipper slowly along its track, watching the flap of the tent door release and collapse inside. The moonlight that penetrated the forest canopy was filtered by the tent's fabric and released inside as a glowing hue of red. A massive, obese woman lay face down on the floor. The woman was shifting slightly side to side like a sea lion parting the earth with its body. What? Her head would rear back, creating a demonic giggle. Between her engorged legs lay the feet of a man stuck beneath her, feet belonging to a body much smaller than the one that lay atop it. I called the woman. She turned her head to look at me and started to laugh like a small child, with a look in her eyes of a wild animal guarding its kill.
What?
Her possessed, childlike laughter paused by the sucking of her own saliva as it hung from the mouth like a slimy stalactite. The man lay beneath her, facing this horror. A small, frail man outweighed by this carnivorous monstrosity by hundreds of pounds. The man's face was painted in blood and hopeless defeat. His nose was severed where cartilage met bone and hung to the side by the skin of his right nostril. His face was chewed with dozens of penetrating bite marks.
Oh my
God. His eyes moved independent of his head, looking to the side, looking up.
Why are you laughing?
It's so horrible. It's so horrible. I cannot laugh.
Oh my
so
gosh.
horrible.
Okay.
Whew. Okay. The woman sneered, her mouth and cheeks stained with the dark and maroon, her teeth shining red like a lioness straddling a kill. She turned back and continued to devour him. Her jaw would hinge and thrust down into the face of the man and clamp shut into the flesh of his cheek.
No.
The man would emit a frail scream.
Alissa.
It's so ridiculous. I'm so sorry. It's so bad.
This is a true story.
I know. That's what's making me laugh because it's so fucking twisted. I can't.
So twisted.
It's so bad. Okay. Whew. Okay. She mumbled a slight giggle while holding the bite and began thrashing her head side to side, trying to pull the flesh free. She was too massive to move by force. The tent is too small for a fight. I crawled backward out of the tent's opening and stood. I took out the knife I carried clipped to my pants pocket and sliced away the tent's walls, leaving only the skeleton of an arched fiberglass dome. The seizure of this great beast required the efforts of myself and 3 others. This transient man, had been living in the woods and was beckoned by this woman to stay with her in her tent. Like the irresistible call of a siren, he joined her. As they lay to sleep, she began to solicit him for sex. He denied her, and she rolled her massive body onto his tiny frame, smothering him. Face to face, his arms pinned beneath her folds, unable to move. She began to bite. Hours of biting and chewing and crying out. His face mauled as though set upon by ravenous dogs. This woman was handcuffed and walked through the field to the police car. As we walked, I noticed the tightly fitted handcuffs around her wrists had began to loosen. They loosened as though her size was shrinking. By the time we reached the vehicle, she was no longer a massive size, but carried an average weight of an average frame. Her demonic eyes and ravenous glare had been replaced by an innocent face that seemed so confused as though a passage of time had slipped by without her. Maybe the traumatic scene I had witnessed caused my brain to process an over-dramatic image of this woman as I saw her in the tent. It was a challenge to process this experience, and I couldn't help but wonder what gin lived within the soul of this woman, what demon lurking in the woods had possessed her, what had happened to make this woman manifest and act the way she did.
Holy shit.
Signed, Stephen H.
Mic drop. That was intense and insane. The imagery that he painted.
Yes.
Oh my God. And then she's like, gets to the police car and she's like confused, innocent, like face surely still covered in this transient's blood. Holy shit. That was... I feel like I need a drink after
my
that
mother-in-law is a police officer, and she was like, I had to like decompress for like 7 years after I retired. Just decompression. Because you see some shit.
Did Stephen say that he had retired or he's about to retire?
He's going to.
He's
still in it.
Woo.
You see people like filled with something that's like
unnatural.
Was she on bath salts? Those are a thing.
Would that make you so swollen that you would...
But you might eat a face. It might make you so swollen you
eat a
face.
True. Drugs make you
I've been
weird
pretty hungry
stuff.
this week. I might eat a face.
I'm a little worried because I do smell like bacon.
And
we were
bacon.
eating cheese.
I would eat that face. Sure.
I am curious what happened to this woman, though. Like, did she remember eating the man's face and was like, I was hungry? Or was she like, I don't remember that happening at all?
How does that happen? Like, let's have sex. Oh, you don't want to have sex with me? I'm going to eat your face then.
I'm going to eat your face.
Close second. This is the second thing I wanted to do. Number one was sex. you
Number
were enough for
2,
the sex, then 2, I'm going to
midnight
eat your
snack.
face.
Jeez. Ooh,
Okay,
good
well,
one, Steven.
Wow.
Bringing it.
I'm going to return that to sender. Like, send more of that.
No.
I think you should write this story and this whole novel. Gosh. Follow through.
Maybe that's what we just turn our podcast into, Stephen's novels.
Yeah, just send us the next installment. We'll read it.
Please.
Sure.
They're so well
I
written.
might laugh a lot, highly inappropriately.
Oh, yeah. Maybe don't hire us for your audiobook. But we will really enjoy it.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You got to hear this part. And then his lips were ripped off. And all you can see were their teeth.
Alissa, are you ready to hear my next story?
I'm so ready.
Good. Because this is from Lame Staff.
Lame Staff?
I think that might be their last name.
Lame
Is that
Staff?
Irish?
Why would you think it's Irish? What nationality are you again? German?
Welsh?
Scottish,
mostly, actually.
That name sounds Scottish.
Oh, I
Welsh,
think it's
sure.
Lame Staff
Lame
Scottish.
Staff. No,
Did you just say shit staff?
It's your mom's maiden name. I'm pretty sure.
Shit talker over here. Okay.
Debbie. Lame Staff.
My mom listens. You're calling my mom Debbie shit staff? That's so mean. Sorry, Mom.
Like
Alyssa's really mean right now.
Debbie.
She's laughing at cannibalism. She's ruthless tonight. Okay. Lame Staff says, when I was about 9, we moved to a different county. Straight off the bat, weird things started happening. Firstly, it would be things being moved and doors being opened when we thought we shut them. Things slowly but surely took a very, very disturbing turn. Whilst downstairs in the living room, it would sound like what I can only describe as people moving furniture upstairs, and what sounded like a very large man running up and down the stairs. Cracks started to appear in pictures that we would find on the floor. This got worse and worse and much louder, to the point we couldn't hear the TV over it. Oh my gosh. One evening, my parents had gone to play bingo. I called my friend because I needed a distraction, and it felt like it wasn't on my own. She could hear the noises of upstairs through the bloody phone, and she told me to get out of the house. I remember I had my PJs and slippers on, and I ran all the way to the bingo hall to where my parents were and said that I couldn't be alone in there. And that was the last time that they left me in the house. One night, me and my dad were watching TV, and with the garden being behind the TV through the patio windows, he turned to me and said, "Somebody's out in the garden. I've just seen what I think is a young girl walk past the doors." We searched the outdoor patio with the security light on to no avail. We had a Burmese mountain dog at the time who would lose his shit and start barking in random rooms of the house at absolutely nothing that we could see. Also, I might add, this house was extremely cold, with a fire going, and even in summer. One night I woke up and needed the toilet. My bedroom door was opened, and as I turned over in bed and opened my eyes, I saw what was this little girl that my dad had seen. And she was standing at the end of the hall, plaited hair and a school dress on. Nothing sinister about her, just there.
Plaited means braided.
Yeah, that's the European word for braids.
Okay. I've Googled that before.
I know, I had to also when I was younger.
Everyone knew that.
I closed my eyes tight, and when I opened them again, she was gone. One night, me and my mom were walking our dog over the road from the house. As the dog went about his business, we both looked over at the house whilst chatting. No word of a lie here. There in the bedroom my brother should have been in, he was out at the time, was a huge, bulky man standing in the window, as big as a door frame and absolutely menacing. We raced over the street and into the house, and my dad was in the living room. Mom rushed upstairs to find nothing. One Christmas, we all went back to the city that we had moved from. And when we got back, the whole house was trashed. And when I mean trashed, the wardrobes had been emptied. The sofas were overturned. The chairs were upside down. Rugs thrown all over the house. Everything. It looked like it had been robbed. Yet all the windows and doors were locked with no forced entry anywhere. At that point, my mom gave my dad an ultimatum. We put the house on the market or we get a priest in it. They put the house on the market, and the day of the moving, my mom had just driven to the new house with boxes, and when she returned, my dad was standing outside the house, pale and terrified. As he climbed in the car, he said, "Something has just happened, and I am never, ever going back in there." Till this day, he still hasn't told us what happened.
What? No, come on, bullshit. Maybe he saw a big fat woman eating someone's face.
That is absolutely enough to cause someone to be pale in the face and never want to talk about that again.
You got to spill that tea. I want every obituary, it needs to be a requirement to give the cause of death.
Oh my gosh, I was just talking about this. Yes,
not
because
like died peacefully at home. No,
because my imagination goes wild.
Yeah,
and 87-year-old Betty Lou died in a terrible garbage disposal accident.
That's not peacefully, but like that would be died at home.
Oh, okay.
That died peacefully could be like drowned in your bathtub after drinking too much tequila.
Right. Right?
Peaceful.
My mind goes all places when I read the obituaries. I actually can't read them because my imagination goes crazy.
Boycott them and like really send a message to
all of the newspapers around the world writing obituaries.
We gotta send a message. We're not gonna stand for it. Vagueness.
Okay, should I read one more quickie?
Some of us don't have real lives. We have to like live vicariously through the obituaries, the deaths of others.
I know. That's how we thrive.
Yeah.
Nobody's spilling the tea. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
This is from Gomi.
Sounds like
64. I don't think that's their birth name.
Okay.
First, let me put you into...
Wait, do you think it's a cute nickname for Gomez?
Gomi. I love that. Okay. I love it. Okay. All right. Our good friend Gomez Gomi. First, let me put you into situation. This happened when I was a teenager, probably 2011. Not sure about the exact year. It was summertime. I was living in a small town known as Saint Hyacinthe in Quebec, Canada. Canadian. That's why we love Gomi so much. I want to go to
Saint Hyacinthe now. It sounds magical.
It does.
Just by the one sentence I've heard of it.
I think this story is just going to be about a magical house. Here we go.
Oh.
My house was right by a river known as the Yamaska River. It is a long and wide body of water that stretches far within the reign of
Montérégie.
My neighbors lived very close to my home. They were very quiet people, and I don't recall them being loud or annoying in all of my 19 years of living there. One of my neighbors was an old gay man living with another man who was much younger than him. The other neighbor was a couple whose children were a little older than me, and they were frequently not present on weekends, and I always knew them as very square and disciplined people. One summer night, I was playing video games in the basement while my father was in his office upstairs. His office had a door. Pulling it, Alissa. His office had a door in it that led to a balcony that gave directly onto the backyard where the river is. All of a sudden, I could hear my father coming down the stairs in a hurry. Once he got to the basement, he said, "I can hear a baby crying outside." I remember being very curious, and we both quickly went through the door into the basement, from the basement that led to the backyard. To my surprise, I was indeed hearing the cries of a baby. Okay, that sounds like a cat. It was loud enough that it felt like the child was meters away. The closer we got to the river, the louder the cries were. We kept looking around. Of course, we didn't see anything on the water. It was calm. Moonlight allowed us to see on the water, and the wind was weak. The noise was clearly coming from very nearby. I understand that sounds travel more easily on a large body of water because there's nothing to stop it, but the baby seemed way too close for it to be across the water. My father was also very confused, and he too seemed to have no idea where the sound was coming from. The cries would sometimes pause and then resume after a short while. We didn't bother for long. In fact, I was a little creeped out and felt like I didn't want to be outside. I'm not sure if my dad was actually scared. He never was the kind of man to believe in ghost stories. However, he did have a look of surprise when he heard the cries outside. We eventually just went back inside and carried on with our evening. I remember asking myself many questions that night. To this day, I still believe it was the ghost of a long-lost child from the past who probably drowned or was left abandoned on a floating plank in the middle of the river. My father never spoke of the event again. Oh, another unspeaking father.
Fuck, and another
Jeez.
cliffhanger. There's no explanation.
Also, if you hear a small infant crying,
Just don't
Do
see
you,
anything. I guess it's fine.
I'm a little
sure
creeped
they're
out by this
fine.
crying baby. Let's just go
Just don't
inside.
ever talk about it. It's fine. Just don't talk about it. It's fine. A crying baby on the rock. No.
No biggie. Just don't talk about it ever again. Oh, man. Here I am.
I don't like these cliffhangers. They're very
Sorry.
unsatisfying. You know what? I hate those movies where it's clunk, end. It's I want a happy ending. I'm so
I know,
fucking
something that
basic.
ties
I'm
up with a
bitch that
quick
needs a good
little
old
bow.
ending. And then if you even want to add a bonus ending after the credits, I will lap that shit up.
Oh.
Don't shortchange me with and they never talked about it again.
Well,
no one knows what
lesson
happened.
learned. Gomi and Lame
Gomi?
Man. What was the other guy's name?
His name was Gomi, and the other guy. Well,
That was the couch. I
that's
didn't fart.
creepy. Oh no, Britt. We gotta end camera. Rewind the footage.
If somebody has a story that's a real good cliffhanger
No
to
cliffhangers.
share with us,
I want a complete story to share.
with periods and full names and all, you can
Epilogues.
prologues, epilogues, all the logs. Write it to Alissa.
At SkeleTalesPodcast@gmail.com. You can also call the hotline and leave it.
302-689-DEAD. 302-689-3323.
You can also message us on all the socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook. You can find us at Facebook, SkeleTales Community, SkeleTales Podcast. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. And Britt's got something exciting to say.
Shout out. So we don't announce it every episode because we forget. We have a Patreon page, and I would like to do a shout out to our new Patreon member, Christy R, for being a member of Patreon on SkeleTales. And over there, we've got the freshest unseen content, but also you can listen to our archived episodes. If you would like to be a Patreon member, you can do that at SkeleTales Podcast at Patreon. We also have a merch shop. This week we'll be posting up some amazing glow-in-the-dark ghosty stickers that are incredible.
Yes.
They're only $3, so
Yeah.
everyone should go grab one of those.
They're
Alyssa designed them.
Boomers.
Oh, Alyssa, before we sign off, there's something that I need to tell you.
Okay.
Very importantly.
What?
Hunt y'all later.
Hunt you later. Good night.
Real quick, before you go, I want to let you know SkeleTales will be taking the month of August off. We'll be back starting September with fresh spooky tales for you. In the meantime, head over to YouTube for some new content and previous episodes at SkeleTales Pod. See you in September.